I'm Lisa Piccione, and we're on Capitol Hill today with the co-chairs of the U.S. House of Representatives General Aviation Caucus. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Please welcome Congressman Sam Graves from Missouri and Congressman John Barrow from Georgia. As everyone in the business aviation community knows, we've had a really challenging past couple of years. And one of the biggest challenges facing our community has been the misperceptions of a lot of policymakers and opinion leaders about the use of a general aviation aircraft for a business purpose. Congressman Barrow and Congressman Graves have recently sent a letter to all 435 members of the House of Representatives, inviting them to join the General Aviation Caucus. And as part of the letter, you all said this: "The purpose of the caucus is to inform members and staff about the importance of GA to our economy and transportation system. We're all grateful for your work to advance general aviation, and I thought perhaps we could start this morning by talking a little bit about each of your congressional districts and the role that GA plays in your communities."
My district is a very rural district, so it's quite expansive, and general aviation is a huge part of it. People use it to get around. In my own hometown, we have doctors that come into the local hospital and use the airport because it's much easier for them to get in, be able to do their rounds, and then get back out and go to the next community to do that. We have businesses that surround the airport. Economic development is a huge part of the communities when they're trying to attract businesses in. They want to look at the airport. So it really touches every district in the nation the same way, whether it's an urban district or a suburban district or a rural district.
Great, thank you. Congressman Barrow.
Well, my story is very much like Sam's. My district is Georgia's 12th, and it stretches from Augusta to Savannah in the eastern part of the state. We got two great commercial airports, and the general aviation folks have to share airspace with those operations, but my district's very much like Sam's. More than 60% of the people who live in my district live in the rural areas of my district, and it's very important to develop economic opportunities, but also to maintain the efforts that folks have made in the past to keep the community airports up and running. So all the issues that face the general aviation operator and owner, they're present in my district. We also have a big manufacturer in my district. I have Gulfstream in my district, a great corporate citizen, and as general aviation is one of the great positives in one of the great success stories in our American economy, I have a keen interest in that side of things as well.
That's great. Well, for our members from the National Business Aviation Association who are in all 50 states, maybe you can help people outside the Beltway understand why it's important for there to be a congressional caucus established to really advocate on behalf of general aviation.
Well, probably the most important reason why we need a general aviation caucus is we don't have a general aviation committee. The interests of general aviation are scattered amongst some of the big committees in Congress, and it's necessary to have a caucus to kind of focus the interests of the general aviation community on the members of Congress who scatter their work in the interests of general aviation across the spectrum. You know, the tax folks touch and concern the general aviation community, and that's in Ways and Means. The Energy and Commerce Committee has responsibility for trying to promote energy policy to get gas prices down. Transportation infrastructure has a lot to do with next gen and all that stuff. So as Congress doesn't coordinate its stuff through the committee structure, it's important for us to have a caucus to do that.
There's 435 members of the House of Representatives, and you know, one of the biggest purposes of the caucus is to be able to get this message out whenever we have an issue that's coming up and inform members of Congress who may not be as in touch with some of the issues facing general aviation as some of the rest of us, to inform them of what the impact it's going to have on their district and the impact it's going to have on general aviation. So as much as anything else, it's a big education tool.
Well, let me build on that for a second. We have viewers from all over the country who are going to be tuning in today. And what can people outside of Washington do to help spread the word and really build support for the caucus?
Well, the biggest thing is to get involved and contact their member of Congress, get to know them, and urge them to join the General Aviation Caucus and be a part of this process to promote general aviation. To explain to other members of Congress, why it's important and why we need to protect it, and why we need to make sure it continues to be as viable as it is today. But the biggest thing is just get involved and push those members towards the caucus.
The thing that your members can do that most will help us the most is to reach out and let us know about the concerns that affect them. Let us know about what's going on in their lives, and also work with their colleagues in the general aviation community, get them involved as well. We ask our colleagues to join this organization or this caucus or that caucus an awful lot, but nobody has the persuasive power on a member of Congress like someone back home. And so while we do all the asking all the time, if folks back home are asking the member to get involved in the only organization that's focused on the interests of general aviation, it makes a difference. It'll get members to join up.
Well, and it looks like we have some good opportunities this year to make sure that aviation issues get a lot of visibility. This week, the Transportation Committee held 2 hearings on comprehensive FAA reauthorization legislation. And I'm very interested to kind of get your perspective as we start to talk about issues like modernization, security, safety. What do you think are the big issues for general aviation in 2011?
Well, there's lots of them, and obviously reauthorization is a big part of that. Because it affects everything we do in general aviation, and we got to be very mindful of things that the attacks on general aviation, like user fees, which we've been able to keep out of the bill in the past. We've also got things like the large aircraft security proposal, which is a huge problem for those businesses that operate aircraft or other areas of general aviation, and trying to implement those security proposals that are out there. So we got to push that back. Those are 2 big issues. 100 low lead fuel for general aviation for piston-powered aircraft. That's a big issue out there that's coming, and we need to be very mindful of it and try to work with the groups out there that are trying to do away with 100 low lead to make sure we have either a viable opportunity or a viable alternative or an opportunity to continue to use 100 low lead that we already have.
Building on that, next gen, getting us off of reliance on ears on the ground and getting us to take advantage of eyes in the sky, that's something we've got to be able to do. But we'll never be able to do that as long as the business plan of the FAA hadn't changed any in some 4 years. It's been some 4 years since they had a business plan they could run on for a period of time, and it's been running on a bunch of extensions, something like 17 temporary stopgap extensions, which doesn't give them the opportunity really to alter or change their business plan. No business could lock its business plan for 4 years solid. We got to get the FAA in a position where they can help lead us to the next generation of avionics, the next generation of traffic control, pilot safety, all the things that Sam's talking about.
Well, for the benefit of our viewers, one thing I would like to mention is Congressman Graves is a Republican, Congressman Barrow is a Democrat, and given that the caucus is operating in a bipartisan fashion, is it fair to say that general aviation is really a nonpartisan issue?
Well, not only is it nonpartisan, but I think it's all the more important and useful to us because it's nonpartisan. We had some 120 members of Congress in the caucus in the last Congress, members on both sides of the aisle. We got 70 folks who've joined up, re-upped in this Congress, and we're working on more. But we can't get enough or create enough opportunities where folks can work together on things from both sides of the aisle. This is one of the few issues that does bring folks together, and the more the folks back home let the members know that, the more bipartisan participation we can get up here in Congress.
And just to use a great example is the caucus itself, and John and I being co-chairs. John's a great friend of mine. We've known each other for a while now, and I'm looking forward to working with him in this process and being able to work on issues. And the caucus is very much the same way. We got a lot of people on there that are friends, and a lot of people that are more than happy to work together. And it's not a partisan issue whatsoever. It's an opportunity to promote general aviation. That's what we would like to do as much as anything else.
Well, you both have mentioned that GA is important to your local communities and to the national economy. Is there any single thing that you think the Congress can do to ensure that we have a strong future for GA?
Well, certainly the issues that Sam touched on are things we've got to address, but probably the most important task we've got up here to really kind of embraces all of those is to get FAA reauthorized and get them on a business plan that's going to stretch more than one fiscal year to the next. The sooner we can do that, the sooner we can move forward on these other issues.
And John's exactly right, because it holds up so many other programs out there like the AIP, the Airport Improvement Fund program, which is what we use to improve infrastructure at all of our large airports, right down to our small airports. As we continue to do these extension after extension after extension, what that does is create huge problems when it comes to getting that funding back out there to those airports. So John's exactly right. What Congress can do is get this FAA bill reauthorized so that they have that business plan and they can move forward, and the rest of the GA community can get back to work.
That's great. Before we wrap up today, any final thoughts you'd like to leave with NBAA members in all 50 states about the GA caucus here in Congress?
Well, we're here to help, and we're here to speak for you. What we want you to do is reach out to us, but reach out to your colleagues in the community and get them to get their members of Congress involved, because, again, nothing will get members of Congress more interested in what we're doing up here than the word back home.
The biggest thing is I'd like for folks to know that we've got a great, the GA community out in the country is something that I'm very proud of, and I love seeing my friends and people that I know very well at air shows and things like that. But right here in Washington, we've also got a great GA community, and that is those folks that are representing their own constituencies out there, and groups like NBAA, which does a fantastic job of working the halls of Congress and making sure working side by side, for instance, with like the GA Caucus, helping the GA Caucus to keep members informed of these issues that are out there and what's coming. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that we work pretty closely together. And again, this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing. It's fun to see members of Congress come together behind an issue, like user fees was a perfect example, come together behind an issue and fight to keep it out of the FAA bill, and it was never even talked about. What side of the fence you were on. It was making sure you were against user fees. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Well, we are so grateful for your leadership and everything that you're doing to advance GA, and we really look forward to partnering with you throughout this Congress and stand ready to assist you in any way possible. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.